Things are getting worse and worse for Ubisoft, and they are allegedly not happy about it. An insider tells me and Fandom Pulse that they want to get Steam to remove their concurrent player trackers so that they can hide their abysmal failures from gamers, the press, and investors. Roll this up over at fandompulse.com. You can find the link in the description below. I encourage you to become a subscriber so you can not miss anything that we cover over on the site. Obviously, we don't cover everything here on YouTube. There are lots of things on the website for you to check out. So head on over there, become a subscriber, and become a paid subscriber to help us eradicate the woke ideology from our society, from video games, from movies, and from television. So this is an exclusive content. This is for our paid subscribers, so you guys are getting a little bit of a sneak peek at this here. So an Ubisoft insider informs Phantom Pulse that the company does not like the fact that gamers, the press, and investors can easily view the performance of their various games on Steam through the concurrent player trackers for each game. The insider told us this: Ubisoft and other companies want to pressure Steam to stop Steam Tracker from giving out info they want to keep to themselves. They want to be able to present findings to investors so they can make it sound good. And we've seen this throughout Ubisoft's earnings calls this year, where they've been saying that they've had really good, positive community sentiment for Star Wars Outlaws. And what ends up happening is we hear rumors that it's only sold 1 million units. They are admitting that their sales are softer than expected and that they underperformed their sales expectations, but they refuse to say how poorly that they have done. We do know that they had originally estimated that it was going to bring in net bookings of 500 million euros for their second quarter. They ended up bringing in only, 352 million euros, almost a 30% decline, much of that due to Star Wars Outlaws, although we do know that X-Defiant was involved in that as well. And I think you can look at some of the other games too, such as Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown, when that came out in I think it was August on Steam as well, which was in that Q2, even though it came out previously, I think in February or something like that earlier this year. So as I said, the insider also informed us that Star Wars Outlaws has still not hit the 2 million unit sold mark, despite being on the market for nearly 3 months. This game came out at the end of August. We're almost at the end of November right here. Still has not hit that 2 million mark. Most games usually sell the bulk of their products within that first month or so, and then usually just kind of have a long, small tail at the end. And it looks like they are not moving any units, and they seemingly are not moving any units on Steam either. And as I said, it's rumored that they only sold about 1 million units in its first month. We had that reporting from Grant Taylor-Hill over at Insider Gaming. He said this: "We have secured a current sales figure from sources close to the game. At the time of writing, Star Wars Outlaws has just ticked over 1 million sales worldwide. It was supposed to sell at least 5 million. It's supposed to sell at least 5 million in its first month. We know this because that's what Barclays' Nick Dempsey said during Ubisoft's Q1 fiscal year 2024 sales report, or the call back in May. He said, when I look at the guidance for Q2, and if I assume something similar for back catalog in Q2 as Q1 of getting to 200 to 230 million euro, that sort of range for the new release Star Wars Outlaws, when I look at the $70 price and then assuming what you might get from it, I'm getting to around 5 million units, something in that sort of bracket. First off, where could I be going wrong with that thinking? Secondly, are you just being pretty conservative in your guidance? Because I guess given the interest in that game, we might have thought it would be more than 5 million units. Remember, Ubisoft is touting that this was going to be a very popular game, one of the most anticipated of the year. It had really positive community sentiment, et cetera, and clearly not. Only rumored to make 1 million in its first month, when they were expecting, investors were expecting 5 million on the conservative end. They thought that was low. They thought it should have been a lot higher. So they did not like how Ubisoft was kind of leading them on. And again, this is what this insider is saying, is that Ubisoft is trying to basically present the best picture that they possibly can. And that is why they don't want Steam to have those concurrent players, because when you actually look at it, which we will here in a little bit, it does not look good at all. In fact, we have another piece of evidence that these people are trying to obfuscate how well their games are selling. They were specifically asked to give some color about the sales curve during the most recent earnings figures report, which is like their Q2. They call it the first half 2024-2025 earnings figures report. And an investor from BMO asked Ubisoft CEO Yves Guillemot this: on Star Wars Outlaws, obviously off to a slower start than you guys wanted. Can you provide a little color into the sales curve there more recently? Have you guys started to see things pick up? Can you talk about any discounting you might be doing or strategies for discounting into the holiday period would be helpful. So obviously asking about that sales curve. Has it picked up? Is it even doing better? What does he say? Completely avoids that part of the question. On Outlaws, what we can say is that the 3 title updates that we've delivered at the same time, we've been observing substantial positive community sentiment improvement. So he's back to this positive community sentiment, which just not there. It doesn't exist. He's completely making this up. The biggest update is still to come by November 21st, and it will come on the same day as the first big story pack and the launch for Steam. So we're putting ourselves in a position to have a must-play game that should address a mainstream audience for the busy season, also to be a long-term seller. So literally nothing about how well the game has been doing since that first month, in the third quarter. Completely evading the question. He then added, as great quality, and the team wanted to make sure that we will remove a few frictions and then implement some gameplay mechanics that will certainly delight the players. So again, total avoiding of the question, total irresponsibility in my opinion, and investors clearly saw through it and dumped the stock. And we can see that it does not have that long. What did he say? Long-term seller. It's not a long-term seller because we can see the numbers here on Steam, which they don't want you to see because people like myself and others are pointing this out and showing that these games are not the games that people want to play. Yeah, it released on Steam on the 21st. Didn't even do over 900 on its first day. It did get to 2,492 yesterday. For its first Sunday. It will likely never get any higher than that moving forward. This game was an absolute disaster. It is not a long-term seller. It is not selling well on Steam. And remember, they discounted this 25% off on all of the various editions for this game. So on Steam, it had a 25% discount. I think there was a 30% discount or a 20% discount for Amazon for physical copies as well. On the same day, you could get like a limited edition Amazon, and it was 20% off or something like that. So it's not selling. It's not selling even with the discount, even with a 25% discount heading into Black Friday, heading into what he calls the busy season. I call it the Christmas season because that's what it is, because we celebrate our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, and we carry on the tradition started by St. Nicholas, who gave presents to the needy. And obviously now we have the Christmas tree and all of those things. And you give presents to your children and your family, etc., and to the needy as well. So it's not looking good. It's not looking good, and they want to hide this. That's exactly what our insider is saying, is that they want to hide these failings. They don't want people to know this. There's a reason why they haven't actually published any numbers, because it's been absolutely terrible. You see other companies have no problems sharing how well their games are doing. Farming Simulator, I think, was celebrating 2 million units sold. We saw Black Myth Wukong was celebrating 10 million units. Dragon Ball Sparking Zero celebrating 3 million units in a single day. Metaphor Refantasio celebrating 1 million units. The list goes on and on and on. If you have a very successful game, no problems celebrating how well that game has done. Even Ubisoft has done that in the past. When you look at games like Assassin's Creed Valhalla, they have no problems celebrating how well the games have been done. It's just when they have absolute losers, and they've had absolute losers over the past year plus. I think the last big win they really had was Assassin's Creed Valhalla. And I think that game came out, like 2020, 2019, somewhere around there. They haven't had anything to really hang their hat on. And so what do they end up doing? They end up resorting to trying to pressure companies like Steam, like Valve, to obfuscating what their actual sales are, because they want to hide the fact that they've been failing over and over and over and over again. Well, hard to hide that. But this isn't new. We've seen this time and time again, especially over the past years. Obviously, if you've been following the comic book industry for any significant period of time, you know that Marvel and DC Comics literally changed their distributors, which from Diamond, which would actually publish how many comics they actually shipped and sold to retailers. Well, now you can't really see that at all anymore. So they've obfuscated how well comics are actually tracking. Now we're resorted to kind of estimates and things like that based on retailers opting into various systems to share how much they've actually sold. So you're basing it off of various different retailers and trying to create estimates on how well those books have done, because they don't want you to know whether or not their books are selling. And they especially don't want you to be comparing to the past when their industry was much more healthier than it used to be. And they definitely don't want to admit that their pushing of woke ideology has led to the significant decline of these various industries. It's not just comic books. Obviously, we see this in movies and television as well. Major media companies such as Disney, Walt Disney Company, and Netflix use opaque data to track viewership for their various streaming services. Like Disney literally says they track a view, this is how they define it. It's defined as total stream time divided by runtime available, rather than what you would think is just a single person watching the entirety of an episode. In many cases, they don't even track an entire episode. If you watch like 3 minutes or something, I don't even know if that might be too long now. They might have brought it down to like a minute and a half. Well, that's a view. Well, no, it's not. That's not a view. That person didn't watch that show. They watched like a little bit of it, turned it off, and moved on. Like, utterly ridiculous. Like that is what you would track. And then the whole like total stream time, well, you can obfuscate with that too, because maybe someone backed it up, paused it, whatever. That adds to that runtime. So then you can say like, oh, well, it looks like we actually have more people watching our show than what actually is. And so they're basically duping people and trying to obfuscate these viewership numbers. It's really underhanded. I don't like it. I think they should be much more transparent, be more honest. And that's obviously a big factor. A big problem that we have in our society at large is no one wants to actually be honest anymore. But that's what we're here to change. We're here to change. We're here to be honest. We're here to tell you the truth. And that's why you should become a paid subscriber to Phantom Pulse, because we will always provide you the truth. So putting even more salt in the wound here, though, too, the fact that that Star Wars Outlaws hasn't even achieved 2 million sales, that means they've lost money. They're losing money hand over fist. And we know this because Ubisoft's Assassin's Creed executive producer Mark Alexis Cote recently revealed that AAA games like Star Wars Outlaws need to sell between 8 to 12 million units to break even. This is what he said. When you look at who succeeds, at least in the AAA space, so I'm going to say applies to like mostly premium games, more traditional kind of games, you have 10 games in any given year that will sell about 10 million copies. The reason I'm quoting the 10 million copies kind of mark is from what I've seen and how I've seen our costs, the costs of competitors and everything leaks in our industry. So you have privileged information on where the competition is going. But mostly I estimate that 10 million copies, give or take 2 million copies. So 10 minus 2 gives you 8, 10 plus 2 gives you 12. That's why I do the 8 to 12 range there. Is mostly what you need to break even. 10 million copies, give or take 2 million copies, is mostly what you need to break even. But you have only 10 games that breach that every year. Obviously, Star Wars Outlaws is not one of those games. Instead, what they did, they decided to dump bad money after bad money, and they're chasing this game, trying to think that it's going to be a long-term success when they should have just cut their ties, moved on, cut their losses, and moved on to something else. Instead, they're trying to salvage this game, and I think all they've done is they've spent more money, raising the costs, making it even harder for this game to break even. And I actually think that's what they're doing with Assassin's Creed Shadows as well. We know from Ubisoft's CEO, Yves Guillemot, that they're spending an extra 20 million euros on the game. Like, if this game was supposed to release earlier this month, they delayed it to February. I think it's February 14, Valentine's Day, and they're spending an extra 20 million euros to quote unquote improve the game. And I don't think that is going to help the game sales. I don't think they're going to get 20 million euros in sales from that. I think that is an absolutely idiotic mistake, terrible business practice, in my opinion. Obviously, they put themselves in that situation. They shouldn't have even been there in the first place. But that just kind of shows you how poorly this company is being run now. And they're going to continue engaging in these kind of heinous actions where they want to pressure other companies to hide their own failures, because at the end of the day, these people aren't honest. They can't admit that they have failed. They can't admit that what they're doing is wrong. And that's why they're going to continue to double down, and they're going to continue to lash out over and over and over again. And we see this not just in video games, but throughout our society. And it's truly, truly sad state. And that's why we got to get back to being honest. So let me know what you guys make of what this insider has to say to us about the fact that Ubisoft is not happy that people can see how poorly their games are doing on Steam when they release them to Steam, and then they're trying to pressure Steam to get rid of that function, and the fact that their Star Wars Outlaws game has not even managed to sell 2 million units yet, despite it being released over 3 months, and they need to bring in at least 8 to 12 million units sold to break even. Let me know in the comments below. Remember to always be charitable, especially to each other, and to always, always speak the truth.